Hello everyone, and welcome to PineBot tutorial number 8, where I'm going to show you how to use the futures bot and set up leverage. And I'm also going to show you how you can actually backtest leverage in your Pine script. Okay, now this is something that I couldn't do for a while. And I noticed that when you go into your strategy and you go onto the settings and then into properties, they've got this margin function down here, margin for long positions, the percentage of equity required to fund a long. Okay, I don't even know what this is, and I don't know how to use it. I don't know if it's for leverage, but for the longest time, I couldn't figure out how to mimic at least leverage in your backtest results. And recently, I finally figured out a very simple solution to do that. And we're going to cover that in this video. All right. And of course, how to automate that in your trading. Okay. So to start off with, we're going to go back. All right. We're going to go all the way back to our strategy from tutorial 2. And the reason for that is because we've been building the strategy and it's been getting pretty bulky. And I want to go back to a time when it was simple and just show you how to do the leverage. Okay, so if you haven't watched tutorial number 2, you should probably go back and do that so you have an understanding of how this strategy works. But very briefly, let's go over it again. So the strategy we're using, basically, when our price crosses above this SSL band, or not crosses, but closes. When it closes above this band, we exit our short and we enter a long. All right. And then the reverse of that is when we close below, we exit the long and enter the short. Okay. So this strategy is just flipping back and forth from a long to a short. All right. Now in tutorial 2, we set it up so that it would reinvest 100% of our equity. Okay. So it's every trade we go into, we invest the full amount of money. All right. And we set that up in our settings. So if we come to settings and you go to properties, we started off with $1,000. All right. And we set the order size to 100% of equity here. Okay. You can choose 100% of equity. All right. And that's basically it. Now for this strategy, for our updated strategy, so we're looking at the old strategy. I'm going to switch over to this second tab. All right. And I've made a very simple modification to it. And we can see this modification if we go into settings. Okay. And we go over to inputs. All right. Now the inputs from before, all we had was SSL length, start date, end date. And that was it, these 3. I've added these new variables, long leverage and short leverage. All right. So let's go into the Pine script and take a look at the modifications I've made. All right. And as usual, you can get this updated script. I'll put a link to it in the video description. Okay. So you can go down, load it onto your chart and follow along with me. All right. So the modifications I've made are right here. So this long lev variable and the short lev variable, which is in the settings. So you can adjust this to whatever leverage you want. Okay. Then the second modification I've made, so let's make this bigger for now. The second modification I've made is only on our entries. All right. So if you remember, we have the long exits, short exit, long entry, short entry. Okay. So let's focus on the long entry now. The only change I've made is basically after our long entry condition is triggered, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to do this calculation here, this long amount equals, and we're going to take our strategy dot equity, okay, which is how much money is currently in our strategy multiplied by the long lev, all right, which is the variable that we whatever we set the leverage to in the settings, okay? So the equity times the leverage, all right, divided by the closing price. Okay, so what is this doing? This is basically saying, all right, let's say we have $1,000 and we're using leverage 2. So it's going to take 1,000 times 2. So it's saying, okay, we're going to use $2,000 And then we're going to divide that by the closing price of our coin, whatever chart we're on. So it's going to divide it by the closing price to get an amount to buy. All right. And then in our entry, we're going to put this little tag here, this parameter. So QTY equals long amount. Okay. So we're going to tell it how much of our token to buy. So how much, for example, if we're on a Bitcoin chart, it's going to say how much Bitcoin. But since we're using the leverage, it's actually going to do an amount for 2,000. It's going to buy enough that's $2,000, even though we only have $1,000. Okay. And we can verify that by going back to our chart here. So this is what we're looking at here is the very first trade that occurred, right? You can see it's all the way back in 2018. The Bitcoin price is only around $15,000. And so it tells us here that we're buying 0.13 Bitcoin at this blue entry right here. All right, so you can do the math on that. You can multiply 0.13 times this 15 and 15,164, and I think that should come out to $2,000. In fact, give me a second here. Let me pull up my phone and actually calculate that just to make sure. Okay, so if I say 0.13183, which is, you can see that's the amount that we entered, times, oh, sorry, not times. Wait, do I want to multiply it? Yeah. 0.13183 times the price at that, which is about that 15,000. So 15,164 equals, I'm getting 1,999. All right, which is basically means it's taking out the commission fee. Okay, so you can see there our strategy. If we go into properties and then initial capital, so we're starting with 1,000, but this very first trade is for 2,000. All right, so we're doing leverage on it. Okay, awesome. Now let's look at our results. So this is our updated strategy with leverage on Bitcoin. And you can see it actually gives us a better result than without leverage. All right, if we go back to the other tab, here's our original chart. On this chart, we only get about a 1,600% gain. Okay, but when we do leverage 2 on both the long and the short, we get a 2,500% gain. All right, so on Bitcoin, we get a better result. Other coins, maybe not. It all depends on how the overall strategy works on different tokens. But let's go in real quick and play with this leverage. What if we try leverage 3 on the long? Okay, what would happen? It goes to 2,100. Did it go higher or lower? Okay, it actually got worse on 3x leverage. All right. So I think if we go to 4, it'll probably get worse again. Yeah, okay, leverage 4 is terrible. All right, but leverage 2 seems to give us a better result. Okay, what if we adjust this short leverage? Short leverage on 3 gives much worse results. 4 probably worse again. Yes, much worse. Okay. What about just leverage 1? Okay, leverage 1, we get even better result again. So it seems that our strategy seems to work very well on only using leverage on the long trade, but only a leverage of 2. Okay. But for the purpose of this video, for this demo, I want to show you how to automate this, and maybe even with different leverages. All right. So we're going to go ahead and set the short leverage to 3. Okay. Just to show you how we would automate this. All right. So now let's go back to our Pine editor. And remember, so now we're using the leverage 2 on the long positions and leverage 3 on the short positions. And we've got our entry and exit conditions here. And so what we want to do is we want to build our JSON for this. Okay, so how would we do this? Now, again, this time we're gonna use the futures bot and not the simple bot as we've been doing previously. All right. Now, one other thing I should mention before we get started. If you recall, so the default strategy or the default settings is that we should reinvest 100% of our money. Okay. But when we include this QTY equals. So when we include this quantity tag in our entry, all right, it's going to override our default settings, okay? If I were to remove this tag, it would just go back to using the defaults, all right? But this is going to override that, okay? So let's go ahead and start with filling out our JSON message for the long entry, all right? So for that, we're going to head over to PineBot.io, and we're going to go into the JSON builder as usual, and we're going to start filling out our fields here, okay? So again, we're typically always going to be sticking to category 1, so cat 1. Exchange, I haven't gone with BitGet yet, right? Let's just say we're trading on BitGet. Account, let's say we're using this second sub account, all right? Subs 2, okay, so sub account 2. API key, plug in your key. API secret, plug in your secret. API password, okay, so BitGet is another exchange which requires an API password, all right? So you would have to put in your API password here, all right? Bot type. So here's the first time we're going to do this. We're going to use futures bots, okay? Leverage type. Now, at the moment, I've only activated isolated, so cross is not available. Later, I might go ahead and enable cross margin, but for now, we're only using isolated margin, all right? Leverage. So this was the long, all right? And we said that the long was going to be leverage 2, okay? 2. Side, long, action, entry, amount. Now, remember, since we're reinvesting the full account value, we need to use the dynamic positioning, okay? And I covered how to set up dynamic positioning in a previous tutorial to set it up so it will reinvest 100% of your account. However, I think my previous tutorials, they might have been a little bit confusing on explaining how the dynamic positioning works. So actually in the next tutorial, I'm gonna give a more detailed and hopefully more clear explanation of the dynamic positioning and how to set it up. But I'm not gonna do that in this video, all right? So just know that we're gonna use the dynamic positioning. And to do that, as always, like the instructions right here say, it says, set to 0 for dynamic position. All right, so we're going to set that to 0. Order type, we're going to go back to market orders, just keep it simple. And that's it. We have a validated message, okay? So let's copy that. Let's paste that into our script. So long entry, go over to your alert message, delete JSON, and paste it. Okay, so this message, we've put leverage 2 into there. All right, so you can see here, it says lev 2. So what that's going to do is it's going to send the message to PineBot, okay? And if we're only trading one single coin, and if we only have $1,000, it's going to use that $1,000 and enter a trade on 2x leverage. So it will enter a trade for $2,000. All right. Now, let's go and do the short entry. All right. So if we go back to the JSON builder, we want to do short, action, entry, amount. Same thing. We want to use the dynamic positioning, 0, order type, market. And I have made a mistake. I forgot to change leverage to 3. All right. So when I change something up here, it resets everything below it. Okay, so for the short, we wanted 3, leverage 3. Okay, so really quick, short, entry, amount, 0 for dynamic positioning, market, and you're done. Copy, paste that into our short entry, which is at the bottom. Delete JSON, Control V to paste, okay? And now let's do the exits. All right, now the exits, you do exactly as we always exit, okay? It doesn't know we're in a leveraged trade. When we send in the leveraged trade, okay, it opens a position for, let's say, $2,000, and PineBot, that's all PineBot knows. It knows, all right, we've got a position for $2,000. It doesn't know if it's leveraged or not. So you would exit in the exact same way as we usually do, okay? So it's going to totally, for the exit, it's going to ignore this leverage 3. It doesn't matter. I could put 50 and it's going to ignore the leverage when exiting, okay? So I'll just set the leverage to 1. It doesn't matter, all right? Side, we're going to do long. Action is exit. Amount. So again, going back, this strategy, when we exit a trade, it just does a full exit. So we're going to set that to 100 for 100% exit. Okay. Order type, we want to do market. And there is our valid message. Copy. Go to, oops. This is the long exit. So paste that into the alert message, Control V. And finally, let's do the short exit. We're going to do a 100% exit. Order type. Oh, and just a reminder, in case you haven't watched the previous tutorials, if we only wanted to close 50% of the position, then you would just put 50 for amount, okay? But we're not doing that. We're going to do a full close, so 100. Order type, market, and that's it. Copy. And that is, oh, wait, oh no, that's long exit. Okay, here's short exit, so plug in our message there. All right, and that's it. Your script is ready to go. And let's do a quick reminder on how to set the alert. Okay, so this is done. We want to close the strategy, which is on the screen now on your chart. Close that down here. Reload it. Add to chart to reload it. All right, so this is loading our new alert messages into there. Click on alert. For condition, you want to switch it over to your strategy. We're going to give it a name, BTC futures, I guess. And we're going to delete the message. Okay, then we need to get our new message over from the JSON builder. And down here at the bottom, it says alert message. All right, we're going to copy this placeholder, this strategy.order.alert message. So highlight it, Control C, Control V to paste into here. Then for notifications, don't forget to check off your webhook URL and paste in the PineBot webhook, all right, which again you can find on the JSON builder down here. Okay, so you would highlight this URL, Control C to copy, paste it right inside of this box here. Okay, and that's it. Click create. Go to alerts. All right, and there it is, BTC futures. Okay, so it just created our alert, and you're done. You've just automated this leverage trading. Okay. Oh, I think I made a mistake here. I forgot to turn the short leverage back to 3. Okay, ignore that mistake. Ignore that mistake. We did in fact forget to go to leverage 3, but you get the idea. Even with that mistake, you can figure it out. All right. Now, the next question is, can we do this with fixed position sizes? All right. So let's say our strategy isn't using the dynamic positioning. Let's say your strategy just uses fixed amounts. Okay. How would you set that up? All right. So for that, let's go into our settings. Okay. And we're going to change, what are we going to do? We're going to change our trade setup in the properties here. And we're going to change, let's say we want to do $200 fixed positions, right? So let's just change the default for 200 and then percentage of equity. Okay. No, we're not using percentage. We're using USDT. Okay. So each trade is going to be $200 now. All right. And you can see that this significantly changed our results. Or actually, did it change our results? Oh, I don't think it did change our results because in our Pine editor, we've actually overridden our default settings, okay, with this QTY. All right, so nothing's changed yet. But let me see here. So how would we change our strategy here? So I'm not 100% sure, but I'm at least going to guide you in the right direction here. So here we calculate the amount of the coin we want to buy. All right. So since we're using a fixed value, so let's say we only wanted to use $200 per trade, to use $200. All right. So we would change this strategy.equity to 200. Okay. And then that we would multiply it by our leverage and then divide it by the close. All right. Just as before. Okay. But we're going to have to change our alert message. All right. For PineBot. Okay. So let's delete this. All right. And similarly for the short entry, we're going to change this to 200. Okay. And that's going to enter. So it's going to modify our quantity here based on the leverage. All right. And let's delete this alert message. Okay, now, how would we do the alert message? So let's go back to PineBot. And for the long entry, all right, we said leverage 2, okay, leverage 2. Side is long, action is entry, amount is, now remember, we only want to use $200, all right, meaning we only want to use $200 collateral or margin, all right, so I'm going to put 200. Order type, market. Now, what would that do? So when PineBot receives this message, what it's going to do is it's going to use $200, but enter into a $400 position. All right. So we're only using 200, but it's going to do it on 2x leverage, and this would open a $400 position. Okay. So let's copy that, paste it into our long entry. So let's paste that in. All right. And same with the shorts. Now for the shorts, we said we want to do leverage 3. So leverage 3. Side is short. Action is entry. Amount is 200. And order type is market. Now again, what is this going to do? So we're on leverage 3 and we're using $200 of our money. So this is going to enter a trade for $600. All right. So basically, when you're using leverage, you're just multiplying your amount by that leverage. Okay. And if you're using leverage, then you know how to use it. So the most money you would lose on that trade is $200 because that's all you're using as collateral. All right. So even though you're entering a $600 position, you're only risking $200. All right. Copy that. Let's paste it into the alert, the short entry. Okay. And that's it. That's the only change you would make. The exit alerts would not change. You would just fully exit the position, and you would just go about making the alert the same way. So close down the strategy here, reload it, create the alert, and that's it. All right. So I hope that helps you. I hope that shows you how you can actually backtest with leverage in your script, and also how you can automate it with PineBot. Okay. So as I said earlier, in the next tutorial, I'm gonna try to explain how to set up the dynamic positioning a little bit better, because even when I go back and watch the tutorials on how to do it, it's if you're not familiar with it, I can see why my explanation might have been confusing. So that's it for now, and I'll see you in the next video.